Good afternoon, everyone. Today we'll be saying about introduction to world of cloud computing and Microsoft Azure. And myself, I am GS Abhishek Karma. I am a beta Microsoft Learn student ambassador. The main agenda of this event was a quick review of all basic cloud concepts, benefits of using cloud computing, types of deployment models which are used mostly in cloud, and the service models, and what is Microsoft Azure and Azure services, features of Azure and real-time Azure deployment, and a brief introduction to Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador Program. As most of the student startups have an idea, but the deployment of their models or applications was very difficult. They depend completely on cloud computing based on the users' demands. It is continuously changing from day to day. So this was the main reason for introduction of cloud computing in the market. As for every application, we will be deploying it in the internet, and we don't know how many number of people will use it and at what time they will use it based on different time zones and people from different localities. So we started using cloud computing. As once it was deployed in the cloud, any person from anywhere in the world can access that application with zero downtime. Another major reason was private hosting was very costly and very risky, and the major two disadvantages were it is very expensive to buy servers and their licenses, in which cloud computing has removed them, where you will only pay for both software and the hardware. And as if the number of users increases, you will need to buy more number of servers to keep up with demand. For example, if we see applications like Facebook, etc., where the number of people using the application always changes. So owning a data center would cost more amount. So using cloud computing will enable it to scale up and scale down based on the number of users requesting the data and store huge terabytes of data and transfer them throughout the globe. For example, here we can see a company is using an on-premises data and it want to convert these on-premises servers and SQL servers into cloud computing. As the company's on-premises infrastructure was a little bit different from what it was in cloud computing. As for on-premises, you can physically change the drivers and etc. But in cloud computing, you should do everything virtually by using SSH logins, SSH logins, or using your command line or using that AWS or Microsoft Azure portal. And the main difference between on-premises and cloud computing was in on-premises you pay high with for less scalability, allot huge space for servers, appoint a team for hardware and software maintenance, and it has very poor data security, less chance of data recovery. As for every update in the operating system or in the hardware, you should change it, or it can be a security threat for the data. Less chance of data recovery, as you can't save the entire data for in RAID configuration. For example, if you have 1 terabyte of data in RAID configuration, you need at least 3 terabytes of hard drive to save it in RAID 1 or RAID 0 configurations, which was very costly for any company and to maintain the RAID drivers too. And lack of flexibility and no automatic updates. As for on-premises, you should automatically update the software by using manual pen drives or etc. And less collaboration and data cannot be accessed remotely. Whereas in cloud, you will pay for what you use, like pay as you go, which most cloud companies introduced, and no server space required. Everything was hosted in a data center. So if the hardware goes down, your virtual machine image will be converted to another VM. No experts required for hardware and software maintenance, as the hardware is maintained by the data center, and better data security, as once you keep it in RAID configuration, the entire data storage costs you per hour, and you don't need to configure the RAID or other configurations like in availability zones or in data centers. And everything will be by default in disaster recovery. So if there was any disaster and the data center was offline for a few minutes, your application will not be offline. It will be made online through other data centers, global connections, and high flexibility to scale up and scale down based on user demand, and automatic software updates like patches and version updates. Teams can collaborate from widespread locations, as a number of teams can log in into the same virtual machine and code for that application at a time. Data can be accessed and shared anywhere on the internet. The types of services in cloud computing are virtual machines, infrastructure as a service. The infrastructure as a service is the most common type which enterprises prefer. Has once you take a VM like a 8 GB system and 32 GB hardware system, you can either run a Windows machine or a SQL server. Most of the companies take these and run these SQL servers based on the requirements, and most of them run in availability scale sets as it will automatically scales up. For example, if you have a 100% CPU usage, CPU usage virtual machine running, the system will automatically detect and scale it up and scale it down. For example, you can see that VM scale sets in infrastructure as a service, auto scaled workloads for virtual machines. For example, if you are using this single system for file transfer, and based on user demands, it automatically add on the CPUs to compete with the user requests. And container instances, simple container service hosting, easy to start. This container instance need a starting container image so that it can scale up and scale down automatically. And Kubernetes service, highly scalable and customizable container hosting platform, and app services, platform services, web applications, where you can run web applications like WordPress, etc. in the system. Functions, platform as a service, where you can create application programming interfaces that are APIs, where you can transfer data between multiple applications or use for weather API or data saving API, etc. As you can see from the below mentioned features, that cloud computing is better than on-premises. What is cloud computing? Cloud computing is to deliver on-demanding computer services over the internet as using pay-as-you-go model. Rather than managing the files on local storage, cloud computing makes it possible to save them over the internet. As in case of hard drives which are stored in the company's on-premises data centers, if there was any chance of power failure or internet failure, the entire application will go down, and the log files of the time where the internet or the power is not there will be lost. Whereas in cloud computing, you can use advanced systems like FIFO, first in first out queues, to store the application downtime writes and reads and apply them to the database. This will improve your application efficiency little bit rather than on premises. Cloud providers own massive data centers which have hundreds of servers, storage systems, and components critically on organizations working, and they all are interconnected. Users can access any service based on their requirement. Users only pay for what they need. Benefits of cloud computing are backup and restore data, improved collaboration, excellent accessibility, as any person can access any data center around the world from a single location, and low maintenance cost. Even in times of maintenance, you will be given alternative VMs to make your application available rather than them going down. Services in pay-as-you model, mobility, data security, and unlimited storage capacity, where your data center storage may be limited, but cloud data center storage was unlimited, nearly. Disadvantages of cloud computing: data security. Has cloud is a standard security model, so in case the application has any issues in securing your data transfer, this will affect the data that you transfer in, like leaking out in the public or public IP addresses. For example, there was a public database that was available in the internet due to public access enabling for a simple S3 bucket in AWS. Vendor lock-in, for example, uh, companies will store their companies will store their account data in opponent companies' data centers, like Netflix storing their entire users database in Amazon Web Services (etc). These all are vendor lock-in. Like few vendors only support few features and few does not, and limited control. Where you don't have the hardware server, you will have limited control like port numbers, etc., and internet connectivity. For cloud computing, you need a high-speed internet connectivity. With low speeds, your efficiency of the application will slow down, and you to work with the server. Types of cloud computing: deployment model and service model. In deployment model, we have three types of cloud. Public cloud means cloud computing. Hybrid cloud means both using on-premises and private cloud. Service models are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. In 2021 magical quadrant, we can find that Amazon Web Services was on top, second Microsoft, third Google. Types of deployment models: public cloud, access to everyone; private cloud, access or owned by a single person; hybrid cloud, like a private taxi. Shareable storage: in public cloud, you can share the data around the world, whereas in hybrid cloud, due to some internet issues, the application may not reach the person at a remote location. The cloud infrastructure is made available on general public over the internet and is owned by a cloud provider. Example: AWS, Microsoft Azure, IBM, Blue Cloud, and Sun Cloud. Private cloud: if we take applications that run only within the application's data center, so they are limited with less number of features. For example, if you run on VMware softwares where the port numbers are very limited, but if you use this public clouds, we can change them. Hybrid cloud: using both your on-premises and public cloud for better efficiency and data security. Infrastructure: the types of service models are infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. If your business needs a virtual machine, opt for infrastructure as a service. If your company require a platform for building software product, pick a platform as a service. If your business does not want to maintain any IT equipment, choose a software as a service. For example, software as a service include your simple mail IDs. Platform as a service simply include the DynamoDB in AWS or Azure DB, or infrastructure as a service includes Azure VM or Amazon EC2. Yes, we can say that the infrastructure as products are Amazon EC2, Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure VM. Infrastructure as a service is cloud computing that provide basic computing infrastructures with pay-as-you-go model. Top infrastructure as a service providers are Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, and Google Compute Engine. Platform as a service include Oracle Cloud, Engine Yard. You'll pay for what you use in this model. Software as a service simply include these applications like Slack, Dropbox, which your application will run a personal server for you to store files, where the only where you upload the data and the entire background was managed by the cloud provider is called a software as a service. So you can see that on premises you should manage everything. In infrastructure as a service, you should manage applications, data, runtime, middleware, OS. But in platform as a service, you need to manage applications and data. In software as a service, you need to only upload the data and nothing you should care about. Everything is managed by the cloud provider. Also, the difference between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. On premises, you should manage everything. In software as a service, this all should be managed by the bakery. And platform as a service is like a cake delivery. And software as a service is just you dine out and everything is managed by the hotel. As of 2020-21, Amazon leads the cloud market with 128 billion cloud share. Microsoft Azure. Azure is a cloud computing platform and an online portal to access and manage resources and services provided by Microsoft. Microsoft Azure is a set of cloud services to help your organization meet your business challenges. It's the freedom to build, manage, and deploy applications on a massive and global network using favorite tools and frameworks. What is Azure? It was used by 80% of Fortune 500 companies. Supports multiple programming languages like C/Node.js, Java, and including Python. It has 42 regions which have multiple availability zones in them. It was launched on February 1, 2010. These are a few of the top services that Microsoft Azure provide. The basic services for compute are Amazon Virtual Machine, Amazon Web Apps, Azure Virtual Machine, Azure Web Apps, Azure Kubernetes Services, Azure Public Cloud. The service storage are Azure Disk Storage, Azure Blob. Disk Storage supports both Windows and Linux, and Blob storage was mostly used to store data like images, etc. Azure files were used to attach them to virtual machines, and Azure Queue Storage will make them move the messages in a single order, mostly used for messages and emails. Azure networks include CDN, Express Route, Virtual Network, and DNS. DNS is simply a Route 53 service which will give you DNS records for your website. Virtual Network was to connect your internal Azure services or from your network to your on-premises data centers. Express Route was to use to connect your data center to Microsoft Azure. CDN will enable to cache your data in the nearest data centers to make the user access the data in limited amount of time. Features of Azure: on-demand provisioning, scalability in minutes, scale out or scale up down depending on usage or needs, pay as you go, etc. And abstract resources, efficiency of experts measurable. And if you're interested in Microsoft certifications, these are the certifications that Microsoft offers. The basic one was AZ900 Azure Fundamentals, which was offered for free for students, which was a global certification. I will be deploying a static website using static apps and GitHub. I will be deploying a static web app. A resource group just to save the files. You can deploy at the nearest location available to where you can see that I'm directly importing from GitHub. It takes few minutes of time. It takes few minutes of time for the website to update. As you can see it here, check the deployment status in GitHub Actions. Yes, you can see that the website was online using a domain called Azure Static Apps.net. This was a simple static app where you can delete the app by clicking just on delete. So this was about the program called Microsoft Launch Student Ambassador, where you can apply for the program at studentambassadors.microsoft.com. Okay, for that application, you should be learning at any Indian institution and give the information like first name, last name, gender, pronoun, date of birth, select region, state, phone number, and the degree program in the college you're studying. And you should be uploading a public speaking video of you speaking about how you teach someone, how you inspire someone, and how you promote a event in your college. And your social media IDs also, and additional information on the technologies that you like, and something else. And there will be 4 levels: new, alpha, beta, and gold. After gold, you will be getting a chance to become a Microsoft valuable professional. And you can update for student ambassadors and GitHub campus expert too. Thank you.